The Switch 2 is here, and the games hitting this thing are no joke. We're talking full AAA experiences on a handheld. I put together 20 of the best ones you need to know about. Let's go. Mario Tennis Fever is the 9th entry in the Mario Tennis series, and the first Mario sports title on Switch 2. The key mechanic is the Fever system. You sustain rallies to fill a Fever gauge, then unleash a Fever shot, with effects tied to whichever of the 30 Fever rackets you're using. One racket freezes the court, another scatters shrinking mini-mushrooms, another duplicates your shadow. Characters have HP and can be knocked out in doubles. The roster has 38 characters across power, speed, technical, and defense types. Modes include Tournament with Talking Flower commentary, Mix It Up with Wonder Effects, Trial Towers, and an Adventure mode where Mario and friends are turned into babies by island monsters and have to relearn tennis. Motion controls return via Joy-Con to Swing mode. Game Share lets 4 people play with 1 copy.
One, zero.
Pragmata is Capcom's first original IP in years, a sci-fi action-adventure set on a lunar research station. You play as Hugh, an astronaut cut off from his team after disaster strikes during an investigation. He pairs with Diana, a young android wandering the facility alone. The station has been seized by rogue AI, and the two must fight their way through to find a route back to Earth. The core mechanic pairs Hugh's gunplay with Diana's hacking. Bullets alone can't pierce robot armor, so Diana disables enemy shielding in real time, exposing weak points for Hugh to exploit. You're managing both offense and tactical hacking simultaneously. The lunar atmosphere is eerie and cinematic, and the bond between the two leads drives everything. It launched April 2026, sold 1 million copies in 2 days, a genuinely impressive new franchise from Capcom. Mario Kart World is the first open-world entry in the series, and the Switch 2 launch title. All tracks are interconnected in one seamless world. Grand Prix races you across 4 connected courses in sequence. Knockout Tour is the standout new mode. 24 racers compete across linked courses, with the bottom finishers eliminated at each checkpoint until one winner survives. New mechanics include wall riding, rail grinding, and terrain-specific vehicles like boats and snowmobiles. Races support 24 players, up from 12 in Mario Kart 8. New items include a planted hammer and a Kamek orb that transforms every other racer into the same character. Free roam lets you explore the world at your pace. The soundtrack spans over 200 tracks. It sold 14 million copies in its first 6 months and remains the defining Switch 2 multiplayer experience. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet finally feels like the version players were expecting, thanks to the Switch 2 upgrade. The shift to a stable 60 frames per second completely transforms how the game plays, making movement, battles, and exploration feel smooth and responsive instead of sluggish. Visually, the jump isn't a full next-gen overhaul, but the increase in resolution, up to 4K when docked with upscaling, makes the world noticeably cleaner and easier on the eyes. What stands out more is the improved draw distance and higher Pokémon density, which makes the open world feel more alive and less empty. Loading times are faster, and many of the stuttering issues from the original release are greatly reduced. While the core assets and animations remain the same, the performance boost alone changes the overall experience in a meaningful way, turning what once felt rough into something far more polished and enjoyable. Grid Legends Deluxe Edition brings a full racing sim experience to Switch 2, with all DLC included. You compete across a global circuit in a career covering touring cars, single-seaters, trucks, and electric vehicles. The Driven to Glory story mode adds live-action video sequences framing your driver's rise through the ranks, a genuinely cinematic touch rare in racing games. The handling sits between hardcore sim and arcade racer, accessible for newcomers with depth for experienced players. Boost to pass mechanics let you make aggressive overtakes with risk attached. The variety of car classes and international track environments keeps the career fresh, and the Switch 2 version handles the visual demands noticeably better than the original hardware could have managed. It's one of the best all-around racing options available on the system right now. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is a full, modern rebuild of a classic RPG, set in a world where nearly all land has sunk beneath the ocean. You play as a young fisherman's son who discovers stone tablets that enable travel to the past, to islands that once existed and the civilizations that built them. Each island is a self-contained story arc, covering a different era and culture, with its own mystery and catastrophe to prevent. The reimagined version uses the HD 2D visual style, reworks the pacing, and streamlines the more notorious slow stretches, while preserving the job system and anthology-style structure. It's one of the longest Dragon Quest games, rewards patience, and delivers strong storytelling across many different emotional registers. For JRPG fans with time to invest, this is a landmark title. Persona 3 Reload is a complete rebuild of one of the most beloved JRPGs ever made. You transfer to a school sitting at the center of a hidden hour called the Dark Hour, which occurs between midnight and 1 a.m. During this time, the world transforms. Most people become coffins, and creatures called shadows emerge. You join SEES, a group fighting shadows using Persona's manifestations of inner selves summoned in battle. A tower called Tartarus is climbed over a full in-game year, but the game is also a social sim. Going to school, building social links, taking jobs, and joining clubs directly strengthens your personas in combat. The remake completely overhauls visuals, rewrites and expands the script, adds new mechanics, and includes a new epilogue missing from the original PS2 release. This is the definitive version of a defining game.
Enemy down. Keep that up, Iori.
Give them hell.
Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake packages, two complete rebuilds of the games that started one of gaming's most important franchises. The first game follows a lone hero descended from royalty who sets out to defeat the Dragon Lord threatening the kingdom. The second expands to a party of three cousins across a larger world. Both have been fully rebuilt in the HD 2D visual style, pixel characters in a lush 3D world with dramatic lighting, and both feel genuinely alive in a way the originals couldn't achieve. Turn-based combat and exploration have been modernized without removing the classic feel. For franchise fans, it's a love letter to its origins, and for newcomers, it's the most accessible entry point into Dragon Quest's deep history. Trails Beyond the Horizon is a new entry in one of the most narratively dense and interconnected JRPG series in gaming. A new lead in a new region drives the story forward, while drawing on events and characters from earlier entries in ways that reward longtime fans. The turn-based combat uses the series' AT bar system, where every action and positioning choice affects turn order in ways that matter across a full fight. The game pushes hard on the political and personal storylines the Trails series is known for, with a cast that feels genuinely developed over many hours. It's not the ideal entry point if you've never played a Trails game, but for fans of tactical JRPGs with serious world-building investment, this is exactly what makes the Switch 2 library compelling. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut is the enhanced Switch 2 version of one of the best games in the series. Set in 1988 Osaka and Tokyo, it follows two leads: Kazuma Kiryu, framed for murder and cut off from his Yakuza family, and Goro Majima, an exiled enforcer trying to earn his way back into the organization. Both stories revolve around a small piece of Tokyo real estate that every criminal faction in the city wants. The combat is a brawler, with multiple fighting styles Kiryu cycles between: speed, power, and crowd control. Majima has his own distinct set, including the breakdancing breaker style. The director's cut adds new story chapters, expanding both characters. The main story is one of gaming's best crime narratives. The side activities range from absurdly funny to genuinely emotional. A must-play on the platform. Octopath Traveler 0 is a prequel set in Orstera before the events of the original. Your hometown of Wishvale is destroyed when powerful villains discover a divine ring there and raise everything to claim it. For the first time in the series, you create a custom protagonist, and you recruit from over 30 party members, each with their own job, skills, and backstory into an 8-person battle party. The HD 2D visuals and break and boost combat return. A skill-sharing mechanic lets you transfer mastered abilities between characters to build powerful combinations. A town-building system lets you reconstruct Wishvale as the story progresses. It adapts the acclaimed Octopath mobile game story into a proper single-player RPG, removing all gacha elements and adding new narrative content. It launched December 2025 and was well received as one of the best HD 2D releases in the series.
Now or never.
This is our chance. Time to strike.
Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is built from the ground up for the Switch 2 generation and pulls together characters from across the Sonic multiverse onto tracks that blend different game worlds in unexpected ways. The racing mechanics are built around team-based boosts and the Wisp power-up system, which returns with new applications. Tracks shift through different visual biomes without warning, and the sense of speed is genuinely felt. This is not a slow game. The Switch 2 version maintains stable performance, even during the most visually chaotic moments on track. Online multiplayer supports cross-world lobby events that bring racers together across different Grand Prix brackets. If you've been waiting for a Sonic racing game that actually feels as fast as the character it's named after, this delivers on that promise. Resident Evil Requiem is a full new mainline RE entry and one of the marquee third-party Switch 2 releases. A new protagonist navigates a large-scale bioterror incident across a dense urban environment. The over-the-shoulder perspective, resource management, and survival action rhythm that defines modern RE is running at its best here. Enemies demand different approaches, environmental storytelling fills out dark details, and the pacing between exploration, puzzles, and combat is tight and well-calibrated. That Capcom delivered a full RE engine title running fluently on Switch 2 is itself significant. It was one of the first major third-party games to demonstrate what the system can actually handle visually, and it stands as one of the strongest horror games ever released on a Nintendo platform.
Jesus.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment tells the full story of the Imprisoning War, the conflict referenced throughout Tears of the Kingdom but never fully shown. Princess Zelda, sent back in time, joins King Rauru, Queen Sonia, Minoru, and others in the battle against Demon King Ganondorf's invasion of ancient Hyrule. The Warriors gameplay has you cutting through enormous enemy armies across large battlefields. Each character has their own combos and special attacks. The Sync Strike system lets nearby allies combine their gauges for powerful joint attacks with unique animations per pairing. Zonai devices like flame emitters and time bombs provide tactical options mid-combat. The story fills in major Tears of the Kingdom lore with care that fans of that game will genuinely appreciate. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade brings the most complete version of Cloud's story to Switch 2. It covers Cloud's work as a mercenary for eco-terrorist group Avalanche in Midgar, expanding the original game's opening section into a 30 to 40-hour experience with deeper character development and a layered mythology. Combat is real-time action, with ATB gauges managing abilities, magic, and items. A satisfying blend of action and strategy. Intergrade includes the Yuffie chapter, a complete parallel storyline with its own protagonist set during the main game's events. The Switch 2 version runs with noticeable performance improvements over what previous hardware could achieve. For anyone who missed this on other platforms, this is the definitive way to experience one of the most discussed RPGs of the last several years.
Heavy weapons platform. If we rush in, we die.
Is that right?
Need to hit it with magic.
Trails in the Sky First Chapter is the game that started the entire Trails franchise, now reaching Switch 2 with updated visuals and exposure the series has long deserved. You play as Estelle Bright, a junior bracelet traveling the Kingdom of Liberl with her adopted brother Joshua, completing jobs and slowly uncovering a political crisis threatening everything. Turn-based combat uses the Orbment system. Court slots give access to magic and skills, positioning on a grid matters, and the AT bar governs who acts when. Trails invests deeply in towns, their residents, and world detail before the main narrative takes full focus. It's long and deliberate, but consistent in its payoffs. The threads planted here are paid off across many later entries in the franchise. one of the most rewarding starting points in the JRPG genre. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles collects 3 complete games, Tactics Advance, and A2, with visual updates and new features. The original follows Ramza Beulf, a noble soldier drawn into a war that exposes corruption reaching the highest levels of Ivalice's church and royalty. The job system lets characters earn abilities through combat, then transfer them across classes to build deeply customizable fighters. The political story is dense, earnest, and dark in ways that still hold up. Tactics Advance and A2 expand the setting with different tones and mechanics. All 3 are presented with remastered art and updated UI. For fans of tactical RPGs with genuine mechanical depth, this collection is essential. The strategy layer of the original remains among the best designed in the genre. Pokémon Pokopia is a Switch 2 exclusive where you play as a Ditto that wakes up in a ruined world. Pokémon and humans once lived together, but the humans are gone. The land is barren. A lone Tangrowth is all that remains. Ditto takes human form and begins rebuilding. The gameplay is a life sim around crafting, farming, terraforming, and attracting Pokémon back to the land. The core mechanic? Befriend a Pokémon and they teach Ditto their move. Bulbasaur's leafage grows plants. Squirtle's water gun waters crops. Rock Smash breaks terrain. You use those moves to reshape the world and build new habitats. You cook, construct homes, plant fields, and watch the land come alive again. Online co-op supports 4 players building together. It sold over 2 million copies in 4 days. Nintendo's stock reportedly jumped 15% after launch. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition brings the full CD Projekt Red experience, base game, and Phantom Liberty to Switch 2-in-1 package. You play as V, a mercenary in Night City, the neon megalopolis of 2077. A job goes wrong, and V ends up with a chip in their head containing the digital ghost of legendary rock star Johnny Silverhand. The chip is slowly overriding V's personality. Finding a fix before that happens is the main story. Night City is massive. Main missions, side gigs, faction quests, and world events fill dozens of hours. The build system mixes 3 archetypes freely: Netrunner hacking, cyborg melee, or firearms combat. Phantom Liberty adds a separate spy thriller storyline in a new district with its own cast. Getting this level of open-world RPG fully playable on a handheld is one of Switch 2's most impressive technical achievements.
Gotta keep moving!
Donkey Kong Bananza is DK's first 3D adventure in over 25 years. Voidco steals the Banandium gems at Ingot Isle and sends DK crashing underground. He meets Pauline, transformed from a fallen meteorite, and together they descend through layer after layer of the Earth toward a legendary wish-granting core. The defining mechanic is destruction. DK punches through almost everything: rocks, walls, earth, full structures. The world is fully voxel-based, letting you carve paths, dig tunnels, rip off terrain to throw. Bananza transformations unlocked throughout give DK new forms with different abilities. The creativity in how each underground layer uses the destruction differently keeps it fresh. It's part Super Mario Odyssey in structure, part pure chaos in execution. The best showcase of what Switch 2 hardware can actually do, and the best launch title Nintendo has released in years. That's the top 20. The Switch 2 lineup is genuinely stacked. Whether you're into RPGs, action, racing, or platformers, there's something here for you. Drop your favorites in the comments. Thanks for watching.